Hi, I'm Mike Gregoire, CEO of CA Technologies. What DevOps is really solving is speed. We used to have an environment where the developers would be in one building, building away at applications, and there'd be a whole other group that would actually run those applications after they were built. We used to look at PERT charts and we'd see when's it going from unit test to integration test to system test to performance test and finally into production. And that for a complicated application could take 3 or 4 months. And so you had lots of time to think and understand that and plan your capacity and be very careful in the data center. And you had an opportunity to test your application in multiple environments in the development environment. Fast forward to where we are today. You have a developer sitting there writing code for Android or iOS where they're taking product data, pricing data, customer marketing data, mashing up an application, using APIs, doing that in the course of a day or two, and then wanting to put that out on the website. Well, what happens if you haven't done the proper testing? What happens if that application is so popular it drives your data center into saturation? What happens if it doesn't work very well? You've just destroyed your brand. And nobody wants to slow things down. You've got an application that you think is going to drive economic value for you, but you also want to make sure you don't break the franchise in the process of doing that. So this whole notion that you've got all this time and you can have these separate teams thinking about things slightly different, you don't have that luxury in the app economy. These teams have to become much more aware of each other and much more careful in how you move from this idea to integration, testing, to getting it into production. And DevOps is the whole process of compressing that, but with adult supervision. This isn't about 2 guys and a dog in a garage creating a piece of software that's going to go damage some of the biggest brands in the world. It has to be very thoughtfully engineered, but it's got to be quick. And DevOps is the promise of driving speed. You have to bring these teams closer together, because what you don't want to do is slow down the whole notion of getting that interesting application into production. When you think of the companies that are doing this, these are some of the biggest companies in the world. They want to be able to be innovative, but they don't want their brand damaged. And the whole concept of DevOps allows that process that used to take days, weeks, months, compressed into hours, and still provide the same level of quality, so that when the new application gets into production, there's a belief that the security is okay, that you're not going to saturate the usability of the data center or the cloud service that you provided, and that the application is going to perform as expected.